Gan En, brothers and sisters, and good morning, everybody. This is Joe, and welcome to our weekly review. I think it's wonderful. I say this every time, but and I definitely mean it. Is that it's always wonderful to be able to greet everybody in the morning, knowing that we are blessed in that we are not living in places where there is natural disasters strike upon us, or we are going through very uneasy time. So I think it's something that we should be grateful for, as Master always remind us, to be able to be grateful for what we have and know that we are blessed, and therefore we can actually create more blessings for all. So to be able to be here and listening to sharing with each other and listening, I think it's already in itself a huge blessing already. So let us all appreciate and let us all cherish this moment where we can sit here and also listen to each other sharing. So today, let's first talk about what we talked about last week. We talked about the Buddhism where, why, what now. And we talked about, this is very important, as this is not just talking about Buddhism, but it's talking about the way that we deal with life itself. You know, we should, in our life, we should always know, to make progress, we need to know where we are now, what is our goal, and how do we get to our goal. And that's essentially translated into the Four Noble Truths. And this is basically how we can combine the teachings with our lives. You know, these are all doctrines and teachings that are actually the extensions of what our attitude should be, or our process should be, when we are encountering our lives, okay? When encountering problems, or how do we make progress in lives. So the Four Noble Truths, are the truth of suffering, the truth of the origin, the truth of the end of the suffering, and the truth of the path to the end of suffering. In another word, the first truth, it talks about where we are, knowing that the world that we live in and all of this. And then the second part is knowing why and how do we get here? How do we get to this place? And then to understand that my goal is to try to bring an end to the suffering, okay, the end to the affliction. And how do we get there? And that's the path, okay, the path to the end of suffering. So this is just one way of combining the doctrines, the teachings, the Dharma with our lives, knowing that the doctrine itself is very specific, but we need to transform that into something that we can use today. Otherwise, without this transformation, then the doctrine will remain as doctrines, something that was set in stone. But it cannot really help us or help the people of today, of this generation, of 2,500 years later. When they look at the doctrine, how can we actually transform the doctrine of the Four Noble Truths to be more than just the Four Noble Truths? Okay, so that's what we talked about last week. Now, this week, we're going to, once again, be focusing on the QA, the questions. And together we're going to seek the answers. So we're going to go through the 4 questions that were posted, and we're going to go through them. And also, I'm going to bring something. It's called the support system in Buddhism. And once again, we talked about the what, why, where, and how. And last week, and this week, we're going to be talking about the support systems in Buddhism. And once again, you can guess it. It's incorporating the teachings in Buddhism, something that we are very, very familiar with, and combining that with what we are faced with in our everyday lives through the QA, the questions, the answers. So let's begin with the first question. Now, these are questions. So first, let me shout out a sound of gratitude to all of you that post these questions. And don't feel that having these questions is a bad thing. It's actually very good. You need to voice off how you are feeling, and especially your questions. And these few days in the morning, even though there's no live 熏法香, but we do have the recordings the recording that they recorded from a few years ago when Master was still talking about the first chapter, the introductory chapter of the Lotus Sutra. And Master a couple of days ago talked about that if there is no questions, if you have no questions to ask, then there is no way for you to be enlightened, because the answer is what will enlighten us, or the answers and also the process of finding the answer is what enlightens us, right? So if you don't have any questions, then you are not going to be awakened to the answer. If you don't have any questions, then if you don't have any doubt, then there isn't going to be an answer that's going to wake you, right? So if you don't even know that you're asleep, then how could you want to be awake? So essentially, I really appreciate all the questions that are coming in, and I encourage more to ask. And through asking, it is my hope that together we are seeking the answer. And by no means is this the only answer. And it's my hope that by my throwing out what I think, that everybody could actually, starting from there, and they can actually start to elaborate from that point on and say, well, I think it's more than what Joe just said. It's a starting point, but we can expand from there. And I think that's what this is all about. So first question, and I think this is very real, and this is happening to both probably you and I and everybody else, right? Why do each time I put on Tzu Chi uniform, I'm filled with joy and be more patient when engaging in activities? But once off the uniform, facing daily life matters, I feel so tired and stressed. And this is a very true, simple, straightforward question that everybody has. Now, you might have your own answers already, and that's wonderful. And we can always hear other people sharing their answers, and maybe we can get a different insight into this. Maybe there's magic in the uniform, and that's why when you put it on, you're feeling joy and patience. But when you take it off, the magic is gone. Okay, perhaps that's one answer, and that's very, it's very personal. Maybe there is some magic involved with that particular uniform. Maybe that was passed down to you through your parents or through your muji or through whoever, right? So maybe it's very magical. I don't know, but everybody's got different answers. So let me try to share what my perspective and insight into this is. So each time you put on the uniform, and today I want to talk about connected and disconnected. And this is something that I broached the topic before with the US team, but I wanted to share this with you. And the reason why, this is my reasoning, that when we put on this uniform, the things that we do, we feel that we are connected, right? Whether it's about somebody else's disaster, right? This is a disaster that's happening. It's a flooding in Malaysia, but it's something about that's 400 kilometers away, 600 kilometers away. You need to take an airplane to get there to help them, right? It's far away, but when you put on this uniform, you begin to feel there is a duty and there is a responsibility for you to help those people that are injured, that are suffering. So because of the sense of connected, the duty and the responsibilities that you have, that you feel, therefore you feel connected to the things that you are doing, and you're feeling connected to the people that you're helping. And you are not only that, but you're connected to the people that's right next to you that are also doing the same thing, because they are connected to the things they're doing and connected to the people they're helping. So when you have all these connectedness, when you are all connected with the things that you're doing, the people you're helping, and the people next to you that you're working with, when we are feeling connected to all these things, then we will feel that even though that we could be tired, but we would be joyous and happy. And that's the amazing part. And I think that's what the magic is all about. Because you will be willing. You are so willing. You are willingly doing this, that even though that you might be physically tired, but inside, emotionally, you're joyous and happy. On the other hand, it's not so much that you take off the uniform. It's that when you are doing things that you are not feeling connected, or when you're doing things for people that you are not connected, or you're doing things with people that are doing the same thing, but are not connected to the people that's right next to you, when you're not connected, then all these things feel awkward. All these things feel hard. All these things will drive and grind away your patience. So therefore, you easily get tired, and your patience get worn out, and your willingness to do something becomes very, very low. And therefore, you don't have a lot of joy and happiness because you are disconnected. You are not connected to the things you're doing. You're not connected to the people that you're doing this for, and you're not connected to the people that you're doing this with. And therefore, this thing to you is forced. It's something that no longer it's about responsibility and duty. It becomes something that is forced upon you that you have to do. And therefore, you got tired easily and you worn out your patience easily. Notice, I did not say that that happens when you take off your uniform. I said that this happens when you're disconnected. That means you could be putting on your uniform and still feel disconnected. Or you don't have to, or you could be not having your uniform on and you could still feel connected. So this is something that has nothing to do with uniform, but rather have everything to do with whether you feel connected to the things you're doing, to the people you're serving, and to the people you're serving with. So if we can feel, going back to the question, if we can feel connected to the things that we're doing, to the people we're doing this for, and the people that we're doing this with, if you're connected on these levels, the more connected you are, the more joyous and more happiness, more patience that you would feel, and less tired and stressed that you would feel. So once again, how do we feel that then? So the answer to this question is, I believe it's called connectedness, right? If you're connected, then it's not about putting on the uniform. Because whenever you put on the uniform, you're doing something that you already approve, right? You choose on your own to put on the uniform. And putting on the uniform means doing something that you choose. And that means something that you probably like to do, probably approve. And you like it and you approve, probably, most likely, because you like doing the things that you're doing, you like serving the people that you're serving, and you like the people that you're doing this with. And that's why you knowingly put that on. However, on the daily activities, these are not something that you can choose, right? Like, for example, going to work. It's not something that you happily, willingly choose. You have to, otherwise who's going to pay the bills, right? Or sitting through in a meeting where you just have to because you don't want to, but you have to do it. So you feel disconnected because no one, because people force you, or you didn't make this choice yourself. So how do you feel connected when it's not something of your own choice? There you go. That's Dharma. The Dharma will help you connect to all these things. And that's what, if you imagine, that is exactly what Master is trying to get us to do. Imagine all of the sermons all of the teachings and lectures that Master gives us. Everything that she gives us, it's talking about how we can be connected to people that otherwise would have nothing to do with us. Imagine the people of Africa. In my life, if I did not come into Tzu Chi, I would have very, very little opportunity, or very, very, very little chance to even care or know or even go to Africa or even know anyone from Africa. But because we come into this Tzu Chi world, we are exposed constantly and we're actively engaged in the activities that is happening in Africa. We are constantly being asked in a very nice way, because Master asked us, and because we are disciples, we do this willingly. We are willingly extending our arms forward and say, I want to be connected to the people of Africa. I want to be connected to the refugees that are in Middle East. I want to be connected to the flood victims or to the volcano victims in Guatemala or in Hawaii. I want to be connected to the flood victims in Malaysia or in the US. I want to be connected. These are the things that Master is trying to do in Tzu Chi to make us all connected. So right now, we are connected. We are connected. But without Tzu Chi, this connection would not have been established. That's what Master is trying to do in making us connected with all these fibers and links. And when we feel connected, we feel happy. We are joyous to do the things that otherwise would be stressful, would be tired, would be needing a lot of patience. That's why Master is trying to elevate us to see things that we would otherwise think of as this is something that's very tiresome. So that's why I think the very important thing is to feel joyous and to feel that to feel joy and happiness. Very important thing is that we have to feel connected to the things that we're doing, to the people that we're serving, and also connected to the people that's serving with us. So a lot of times we don't know where we're going or what we're going to be doing, right? The very first time I go to Africa, I don't know many people there, and I know why we're going there, but I haven't done anything yet. So you're not connected to the people that you're helping. You're not connected to the things that you'll be doing because you're not there yet. But you are connected to the people that's going there with you. So at first there is connection. You are a little bit apprehensive about doing this. You're a little bit scared, but there are people next to you that makes you go forward. Now, once you get there, you are coming in contact with the people that you're going to help. And also you're doing something that you know are going to be helping them. Once you are there, you forge this connection even stronger. And once all these things are connected, then you feel joy and happy in doing this thing. So it's not about uniform. It's not about putting on uniform or taking off uniform. It's about whether we feel connected to the things we're doing. So learn to forge connections to the things that you're doing. Think about who this is for, what this is for, why this is for, and that will make you feel connected. So the next question, human by nature have greed, which is not easy to eliminate. We understand that, right? Example, greed for free gifts. This is very specific. Greed for free gifts, greed or soft spot for cars. Oh, this is very, very, very specific. So how can one practice to control this greed? Although one knows that greed is poison and one is in midst of learning Dharma, it isn't an easy thing to control one's desire, thus feeling so useless in a way. So once again, thank you for the question, and thank you for you to lay bare your feeling of helplessness, your feeling of uselessness. Okay, thank you for trusting us by laying bare how you feel about this, and trust me in that when I say this, don't feel useless because we are all feeling the same thing. But it's not useless. We are there facing something seemingly so challenging. We just need to know how we can go through this. And so this is what I talked about before, right? The doctrine and the practice. The doctrine and the practice. The doctrine is all the teachings ranging from 2,500 years ago. The practice is how we can bring that into action and bring that to life. The teachings are written in stone, written in books and sutras. Practice is how we convert those words and in the sutras, the words that's set in stone, and put it into something that we can flexibly use and also apply in our lives. So that's Dharma and action, something that we need to try to transform the words into actions that we can actually do. So what do we do when we when encountering difficulty? What do we do? And this is what we call the support system in the Buddhism. And what is this support system? It's called the three refuge. And I kid you not, this is actually coming from so long ago, right? So long ago. The three refuges that we take, and we probably chant them every day. If you go through all these ceremonies, right? The three refuges are what we chant every day. So that's actually the support system. And let me share with you how they support us. Okay. So to overcome these challenges, one can seek refuge, right? In Buddhism, we overcome our challenges or afflictions by seeking refuge in the three jewels. So I'm going to get into that later, but let's first talk about what are the three jewels, and what does it mean by the three jewels and seeking refuge? This is the picture of a port. So when the storm comes, right? When the storm is raging, the rain comes and the wind comes and the hurricane comes, then all the water is, all the water and the wave and all of that, right? We've seen the movies like Perfect Storm. We know how we know how in the ocean it's very, very scary. So you as a boat need to find a safe port, a safe haven, so that you can stay there. And while the water and rain and storm is all coming down, you will be safe. And that's what refuge is. So how do we seek? What are the three jewels that we're seeking? So very simply, and this is a review for most of us, probably all of us, the three jewels in the Buddhism are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, right? So the Buddha is the Lord Buddha himself, the Buddha, the Shakyamuni Buddha. And that's the one we're talking about, right? The Buddha. The Dharma is the teachings that were preached by the Buddha. And Sangha were the Buddhist practitioners. So that's very simple, the three jewels. So how do you seek refuge in the three jewels? And what does that mean? This is what we chant every day. I take refuge in the Buddha, wishing for all sentient beings to understand the great way and to make the greatest resolve. So what does that mean, and how does it apply to overcoming the great challenges? See, imagine taking refuge in the Buddha means that the Buddha is our teacher. The Buddha is the one that brought the teaching to us. He was the embodiment, the manifestation of all the things that he wanted to teach us, not just the words that he spoke, because the words that he spoke were only a minuscule part of all the great wisdom that that the Buddha understood and the Buddha wanted to teach us. Except he didn't have enough time, or he didn't have, even if he had infinite time, there would not be enough to speak of all the infinite teachings and Dharma. So the Buddha is the teacher, and it's something is trying to open the path to us. So when you take refuge in the Buddha, what does that mean? It means to listen and learn. When you encounter a problem, when you encounter something like, for example, greed is something that is a very serious poison, and how can we overcome it? Listen and learn. Learn from all the people around. Listen to all the people around us, their experiences, how they deal with their challenges, and how they overcome that, and learn that. And we don't do this when we have problems and obstacles. We do this on everyday basis. Listen to what other people are sharing, so that you understand and you know that they are encountering problems and how they deal with it. Even if they did not tell you how they deal with their problems, you can listen and find out that they encounter these problems because these are the problems that you might one day face. So it's not something that you always have the answer for, but it's something that prepares you to let you know that this was something that might happen. So I shared with some of you before that there are things happening in life, happening to many people here at the abode, that things were taken very, very abrupt turn. So there's someone that I admire a lot, someone who brought me into Tzu Chi Foundation, who brought me into Tzu Chi, who brought me here back home, here at the abode. Now, if you want to talk about someone being wise, somebody who has made a great resolve, someone who has really, really all the wisdoms, the intelligence, the charisma, and also the strength and the courage and all the perseverance it takes to be a practitioner, to be someone who follows master's footsteps, that person is it. And that person brought me in, and I have profound gratitude to that person. But years ago, things happen, and the life takes a different turn, and the person chose to leave for now. Okay, leave this place for now, seeking something else, seeking to try to find the answers in other places. Now, if you asked me 3 years ago if that could possibly happen, I would tell you no. If you ask me now, I don't have all the answers, but at least I see this happen, and I know that, you know what? It's not impossible. I need to know that there are things that might happen, even to someone who has much greater resolve, much greater wisdom than I do, and things still happen. Therefore, it's not listen and learn. It's not about knowing how the other people get through their obstacles, but it's to prepare you for the obstacles that you are going to face. Sometimes their way of overcoming the obstacle isn't your way of overcoming the obstacle. Sometimes you have to find your own way. But by listening and learning, you will be able to prepare yourself, whether it's preparing yourself in the Dharma or preparing yourself for the that's ahead, but you will be more well prepared for what's to come. So by taking refuge in the Buddha is to acknowledge that there are people around us that are our teachers, constantly teaching us through positive reinforcement or through negative reinforcement to share with us the things that are going to happen. Some people are giving you different ways. Some people are showing you that these are the challenges that you will face one day. So you need to be prepared for. So first, I take refuge in the Buddha is a way to acknowledge there are people around all of us that are already like our teachers. We can always listen and learn. The second refuge is to take refuge in the Dharma or the teachings of the Buddha. Wishing for all sentient beings to delve deeply into the Buddha teachings, obtaining wisdom as broad and deep as the sea. Okay, so this part about taking refuge in the Dharma. So the first was taking refuge in the Buddha, representing the teacher. Take refuge in the Dharma is actually representing the teaching itself. But more importantly, to dive deeply into the Buddha teaching isn't to talk about dive deeply into the books, but rather it's time for us to think and contemplate, to dive deeply within yourself. Think back of our own experience. Think back of all the teachings that we have absorbed. We have already seen what other teachers can teach us, but now it's time to absorb it, to think and contemplate what does it have to do with myself. When you're encountering an issue and a problem, you take refuge in the Buddha to see that all the people around me are my teachers. The next thing you do is, how does it apply to me? Their way of thinking, how does it apply to me? Their answers of overcoming their obstacle, how does it work with me? Can I do the same thing? Do I have the same energy as they do? Am I as wise as they are? Are their conditions the same as my condition? Am I like them? Or if I am not like them, how do I make it so that that also is something that can help me get through my challenges? Think and contemplate. How do I take their wisdom and make it my own? Think, contemplate. Dive deeply into what they have taught me, what they have taught us, and also how I can incorporate that. So knowing the first part is listening and learning from the Buddha. But this part is even more so important because this is the incorporation. This is the integration of the doctrine into my life. So Master can talk all she wants every day without the thinking and contemplating. We would just be reciting what she talks about. So this is the process that integrates all the teachings and wisdom and knowledge from all the Buddhas and all the teachers around us. This is the step that grinds, that incorporates the teachings from other people into how it applies to me and how I can use it. Next, I take refuge in the Sangha, wishing all sentient beings to lead the populace in harmony entirely without obstruction. This is talking about we have to be in the group of among the people, not just following the Buddha, not just following the teaching, but also in the group of people so together we can work on the same direction. But what it really means is practice and action. It's not enough that we learn, listen, and learn from the people around us. We need to integrate the wisdom into our own lives. How do we do that? By practicing, by putting into action. It's not enough to just make it our own, but we have to use it and act on it. And that's what the three refuges really mean. The Buddha shows that we need to follow the teacher. We need to incorporate the teaching into ourselves. Then we need to practice it and act on it. And that's what the three refuges are. So the three jewels and the three wisdom, in fact, is the Buddha, in a way, is for us to learn and listen. Listen to the teachers around us and learn from them. The Dharma is to think and contemplate so that we can incorporate and integrate the wisdom and the teachings into ourselves, and also go deeply into our own, how we can merge and know my own shortcomings and fix that. And the Sangha is actually to talk about practice and action. So this is actually the three wisdoms that we talk about: to listen, to contemplate, and to practice. So these three things combine very well with how we can get through our problems. But very importantly, seeking refuge does not mean away from problems. It does not mean that, oh, there's a storm coming, so let's run away from it and go seek refuge. But instead, it's a way, see, all this thing, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. It's a way to process these problems. When you find a problem, listen and learn, think and contemplate, practice and action. That's is a way of trying to deal with the problem. So when people ask you, oh, you always seek refuge, you always try to run away from problem. That's what Buddha's problem is. You always are so passive and running away from problems. But rather, that's just if you see the words from the doctrine. But the true Dharma in action is not about just reading the words in the doctrine, but also integrating it and how we can apply it in today's life. So it's a way to process these problems and learning how to deal with them. So it's very, very important we know the 3 refuges are not talking about 3 ways to running away. Oh, the problem comes. Let me go pray to the Buddha. That's what the first refuge is. Or pray to the sutra, or go to the temple and pray and ask the refuge from the monks. It doesn't mean that. It actually means that there are more proactive ways to dealing with problems. It's a way of us of learning how to deal with problems. Very quickly, on question 3. So my home brother, obviously this is written by a sister, who is a non-uniform volunteer, have dreamt of Master Cheng Yen 4 times. Well, very important, 4 times. Remember very vividly. I can't even remember my own dreams, but 4 times since last year. And it was very clear in his dream that Master Cheng Yen gave him some advices for his contemplation. Wonderful, wonderful. The first dream that Master Cheng Yen told him that mushroom fried rice is very delicious. I guess it must be true that mushroom fried rice is very delicious. And the third dream was that Master Cheng Yen brought him to a forest, very beautiful and peaceful without speaking a word. May I know what are the intrinsic meanings of these dreams? So this is what I love about questions, right? You never know what you're going to get. And thank you, sister, for bringing up this question and thank your trust in me, thinking that I can actually give you the answer of what these dreams actually mean. Thank you for your trust. But unfortunately, I cannot tell you exactly what it means because I'm not sure of all the situations, but I can only tell you that this is what we call refuge. This is what we talk about, right? The forest, so beautiful and peaceful. And I just think about this is exactly what we've been talking about, the 3 refuge. Taking him to a forest is a way, perhaps, to tell him that it's time for him to seek out all these refuge. If you read into the sutras that Zhuling, or the forest, it actually represents not only the places of practitioner where they cultivate, but it also represents the practitioners themselves. Okay, so perhaps going to the forest means that it's time to seek refuge. And once again, when I say seek refuge, it doesn't mean run away from problem, but rather seeking out a way to resolve all the issues and problems in our lives. So this is what I think it meant. And about the mushroom fried rice, I would agree. It means that we should be vegetarian. So last question, very quickly, can one truly achieve enlightenment by transforming consciousness into wisdom? Okay, so we always talk about transform consciousness, 转世成智, transform consciousness or knowledge into wisdom. Can one truly achieve enlightenment? Can one truly achieve awakening or enlightenment or achieve Buddhahood by doing this? And the answer is yes, and definitely yes. But I would like to change that statement a little bit. We can achieve enlightenment through transforming consciousness into wisdom. And what does that mean? It means that it's not by doing this, but through doing that. And it's a constant process that we are transforming the consciousness into wisdom. In that, there are many things that we see. For example, the doctrine, the words in the sutra. If you read them as is, then they are just knowledge. But if you can transform those knowledge and apply them in your daily lives, in something that you can freely transforming them and apply them into all these different situations. For example, last week we talked about the why, what, where, and how, and that's the 4 Noble Truths. If we can do that in daily lives, transforming what's written in doctrine into something that we can use, into something that we need, then that's transforming the knowledge or what we can read as words, the consciousness, into wisdom, something that we can use and practice. We can slowly do that and apply that to every moment, every day, everything, everybody. If we can do that, then that's the steps, the roadmap that we need to get through so that we can get to enlightenment. So the answer is an emphatic yes, but we achieve enlightenment through transforming all these knowledge into wisdom. So that's my sharing for today. Sorry for a little bit over time, but I always I enjoy answering these questions, and I hope these answers actually help you. But the most important part is the journey and the process itself. So I'm hoping that together we will be able to seek the answer, not just to find the answer, but also to find that there are actually many, many ways that we can actually get to the answer. And it's a process that will make you feel connected. Connected to the people, connected to the people that you're helping, connected to the problems that we're solving, and connected with the people that we're solving it with. And when you feel that way, you don't feel tired. You feel joyous, you feel happy, and you feel the willingness to go through all the difficulties. And that's how I feel with all of you. So thank you all. That's my sharing for today. And we'll now open our centers for sharing. Thank you.
From Singapore.
Gan En dear brother, sister, good morning. Gan En sister Xiaorong giving me this opportunity to share my experience in Cambodia. Okay, my first sharing was on third Wednesday of last month during the Chinese Chinese sharing Tu Su Hui. Actually, when Sister Xiu Zhen messaged me, would you like to share your experience in Cambodia? My first reaction was no lah. Standing in front of so many people, and it's quite challenging and nerve-wracking. So maybe I should just ignore the message and just take it. I did not receive the message. But think about what Master always say, we must put in our heart and mind when we listen and learn her teaching. She always emphasized listening to her Buddha Dharma teaching. We can increase our knowledge and improve our wisdom. Willing to stand up and speak, to share our thoughts and our feeling, we increase our confidence level that we are able to share our Master Buddha Dharma teaching to the outside world. So actually sounds better when you say in Chinese, like Master always say, 多闻多用心多闻佛法才能增加我们的智慧多分享增加我们的信心才能走入人群 So practice make perfect actually. So I feel Master as a Tzu Chi volunteer, we have to come out and speak about our Master teaching. If it's in our own home, we don't even dare to speak up. How are we going to improve ourselves and face the outside world to spread our Master teaching? So I hope next time, if anybody invite you to share your talk, please quickly agree. Don't be like me, try to pretend didn't see the message. Better still, if you can call and volunteer yourself to share. Okay. It's always a very good opportunity for us to improve our confidence over here. If we say anything wrong, I know that we have our senior brother and sister here can correct us our mistake. So I'm here again, second time sharing. Hopefully I will do better this time. Okay. Let's go to my sharing for this Cambodia experience. First, I'd like to thank Brother Te Fu for encouraging me to giving the opportunity to go for both Cambodia trip on October and last year and April this year. On April, we are very lucky to witness our Tzu Chi new home in Cambodia. Once we landed, first place we go from airport is to our new home in Cambodia. We stayed there till night, cleaning up our new home and prepare the logistic for the next day mission in Latisan. Then proceed to a hotel and rest. So grateful to Master for building so many Tzu Chi homes all over the world. So whenever there's a need or crisis, we can quickly deploy and as soon as possible to help need that arises. When disaster happen, we need to respond and able to help out during the early stage, which is very crucial. So on the second day in Cambodia, early in the morning, we proceed to the Lati San. First thing that welcome you is the smell. Okay. You want to know how bad it is? Try if you happen to see any rubbish truck near you, just go behind, spend a few minutes there. Then you appreciate how we spend about the whole day we spend over there. This trip, for me, not much thing to do actually. We just help out to set up a few shower rooms, some tables and chairs, and later in the afternoon, there's 2 small trucks of rice to distribute. Imagine the whole day there under the hot sun and smells, but you can see all our Tzu Chi brothers and sisters still smiling, holding up to the Tzu Chi Mian Suan. And doing what we are good at, like standing there the whole day, cutting hairs non-stop, and showering for kids till not enough water. Luckily, nobody shower halfway. Some distributing and wearing nice clothes for the children. Okay. People like myself and some of brothers, sisters who have not much thing to do, we just go around, help out a bit here and there. That's remind me of the book that Master say in the 8th realization. Master say, lazy people have no pleasure, and busy people have no dispute. So we are very busy. Of course, we don't forget to look after our brothers and sisters. We keep reminding each other to drink more water due to the extreme hot weather over there. We are very concerned for each other. It really makes me realize how fortunate we are to have close and sincere brother and sister working together. Gan En. I feel the last trip in April is really very tiring actually. Getting up 4 a.m., prepared to leave hotel 5:15 to the rubbish dumping ground, Latisan. First day, we spent half a day distributing 1 container of rice for about 700 people in the rubbish dumping ground. And the second day, about 2,200 people the next day. Even with a lot of helper, it is very tiring and but worth it. Like you just share joyous and happy willingness. Okay, this type of experience you will never get by watching video that we watch during our training. When we see a disaster, very sad picture, we do feel sad. Like Master always say, our heart is pure, 人心本善, but this is the environment that corrupt us. Booming fun now. Watching video is like seeing 3D movies. We can only see, hear, and a little bit of life if you put on the 3D glasses. Thereafter, when you reach home, slowly fade off. Maybe next day, when you get back to work, become too busy, we forget everything. But if you've been there, it's like 5Ds. You can really see, hear, feel, if you are lucky, even touch and feel the real air. And imagine those poor people living there day and night. It's really beyond my imagination how they survive, the poor kids, some babies, and the elderly. What have they done to deserve this? Our set is when we wake up, we got so much thing to choose. We don't know what to eat, but their set is when they get up, they got nothing to eat, living in this kind of dirty, smelly environment. Imagine during raining season, how they live. Do they have blanket and everything is wet and cold. They live in have no proper houses to live, just a shack. The reality of living, if you tell developed country people, not many people believe you. So I really want to encourage we Singaporean Tzu Chi must at least put in effort to go for this mercy relief medical mission, that we will have a very good understanding what is poor and sad. They don't even dare to see doctor. We have to really go around and encourage them that they dare to come in, because they feel that they can't afford it. But actually this time around, April, we have got quite a lot of patients. One more experience I have is this poor guy. Actually, when we go around with the bamboo donation, he took out his wallet. There's only one note. You can see he hesitated and looked at me, but he still gave. I'm so touched. It really made me feel I'm so small. But we make such a good living. How much have we donated? Dear brother, sister, if you have been there, you'll be very touched, really open up your mind about life. More importantly, this life experience, you'll always remember because you have been there for yourself. So you 说我所做，做我所说. It really made me realize how fortunate I am living in Singapore. Safe, good housing, plentiful of colorful international food that we can enjoy, but we throw away even more. Actually, I'm a vegetarian for the past 1.5 years since I joined Tzu Chi. Now much happier, no more choice. Life is much simpler and happier. Think of it seriously, are we okay? Spending our own money for airfare, expenses just to come here, staying under hot sun, smell rubbish? Of course not. It is worth it. We do happily and willingly. We gain so much in this experience, especially when even though you are very tired, they don't forget to look around and see for yourself how and why in this time of modern days still have people living in kind of condition. Thank you. Gan En for your time.
Alongside with two sisters will share their Cambodia mission also in April, and it is the hygiene education which Master wanted us to do in Cambodia the first time. Yeah.
Hi, good morning, brothers and sisters. So thank you very much for letting us do a sharing about our trip to Cambodia. So this is the first time actually we are doing this Skype sharing, so it's a new experience to us. So thanks a lot. And just now, Brother Hua has already gave a very good description of how our journey was, and that actually reminded me the time when we were there. Yeah, so after that we had gone back from the trip and then back into our daily lives and then busy schedules, right? So attending this sharing is actually a very good reminder of what we have done in April. So thank you very much for the very vivid description. Yeah, so I would like to let my Hopan Jing Yun to do the first part of the sharing. Okay, so she'll be briefly talking about the first day that we were there. Yeah, so I'll just hand over to Jing Yun.
Hi, so this is actually our first time going for the mission, and is actually we are graduated from Tzu Chi, and this is the first time for us to participate. And we were lucky that we were able to go even though we have graduated, as most of the Tzu Chi have exams. So during that period, yeah. So after that, we were tasked to teach hygiene to the children over there with Sister Xin. And we were excited and nervous. We are excited to go, but we are because of the language barrier. So we were nervous that we cannot let our message get across to them. So when we plan our education materials, we use music and a bit of drama to let them understand what we are saying. So on the first day, when we reached there, we visited their new Jing Hall. And I have one question. Do you think our Jing Hall is small or big in Singapore? Yeah, because actually their Jing Hall is actually smaller than ours. And it's actually a double-story building that they renovate to become a Jing Hall. So, so you can imagine that the space inside is actually quite small. Sorry. And they actually share with us how they come across, how they managed to get this Jing Hall. So actually they overcome quite a lot of obstacles. Like actually they find some suitable location, but they don't have enough fund to buy. And then for this Jing Hall, they at first they don't have enough fund to buy over it, but after that, they by chance there's someone who offered them the same price as what the price of the building. So they managed to sell their house to buy the Jing Hall. So after listening to their story, it made me think of this Jing Yu, that we really need to have 愿力 and 毅力 心 to manage what to accomplish what we think that is impossible. Like what just now when they say think and learn, we have to think after we listen to their story, we have to think of what we can learn from them. And this is why I learned that my troubles may be quite small compared to them, but I may give up quite easily. Yeah. Then we also helped to clean up the Jing Hall and set up their kitchen as we brought over some equipments for them to use. Yeah, so I will pass back to Hui En.
Thanks, Cheng Yen, for covering the first day of the trip. So the next day, we went to the Dankor landfill, so which was the very major part of our trip this April. So Tzu Chi, we were tasked to promote hygiene concept at the landfill together with Sister Xin. And before we went for the trip, we actually had very limited time to plan for it. So the time we knew it was just about 1 week ago. So we only met up once to do the planning and also to design the educational materials. So it was a bit challenging to us because that was also the first time we went to the landfill and the first time that we are doing the hygiene promoting to the residences. Yeah. So what I've learned from there, from this whole process is actually very interesting. And the challenges that we face are, for example, the time constraint and then some language barrier and also the cultural difference. Yeah, because we were told that the culture in Cambodia is a bit different. Maybe today you will expect that you will have 4 translators to come with you, but tomorrow they might not appear. So when we heard about this, we were very worried, and then we kept on getting assurance from the Tzu Chi Shijie over there. We were saying like, oh, Shijie, are you sure tomorrow is gonna be full, or do we really have all translators with us? Because we don't really know how to speak the local language. So she was very nice. So she was just like, oh, don't worry, we will definitely arrange someone for you. Yeah. So the day before, we still don't know who is going to be with us. We don't have the names, we don't have the contact number. Yeah, so in the end, we just decided like, okay, maybe just 随缘啦, huh? We just do whatever we can, and we see how is it gonna be tomorrow. Yeah. So on the previous night, we actually had some time at the hotel to design some of the educational materials. So we were listening to some music, and then we tried to came up with some simple moves to educate them on how to take care of their daily hygiene. For example, wash hands before eating, and also take shower more frequently. Yeah, to make it more fun and engaging for them. Yeah. So with all these challenges, we still feel that, I mean, if we have decided to go there to lend a helping hand, so there's nothing that we cannot overcome. So it's only with the will that we can continue doing it. Yeah. So some of the learning points I myself has obtained is firstly, to be more mindful. Okay, so during the whole planning journey, I actually learned a lot from the team, because they told us that we cannot just focus on what we want to bring across. Cannot just focus on what we want to teach. Yeah, instead we have to put ourselves in their shoes and then try to think of their living situations. Yeah, so whatever that we want to say, or whatever that we want to share, has to be relevant to their daily lives. Yeah, so we might think that, oh, okay, I want to teach them to use clean water to wash hands. Yeah, but some of the sisters said, yes, they don't have clean water to drink. They don't even have clean water to drink. So if you're asking them to get clean water to wash hands, that's a bit demanding. Yeah, which I agreeable to that. And then we start to think of alternatives. Like, for example, we can teach them to use rainwater instead. Yeah, instead of saying clean water. Yeah, because it's very different situation over there. Yeah. So the next one is trust, to have faith in others. Yeah, so this one I've learned a lot from the volunteer in Cambodia, because there was one incident whereby this volunteer, she actually she took over some of the time to have interaction with the local residents. And then at that time, what she did was she called upon a group of kids, bring them to the front, and then she gave them some of the Swiss roll pancake, and then in packaging, and then she asked them to have a eating competition. Yeah. So at that point of time, I was very puzzled. I was like, why are you doing this? I mean, this is something that is not very relevant to what we are going to teach, hygiene. It's not very relevant. I was questioning her at that time. And then at that time, I was trying to like stop her. I was giving her cue like, don't do this. Yeah. So in the end, I found out that she has a very good purpose in doing that. So when the kids started to unpack the Swiss roll and started to eat, because they thought it was really an eating competition. Yeah, so they started to just unpack it and then eat it very quickly. And then we can see that the way they live. Okay, so they just tear off the packaging, and then they just take the cake out and then just throw away the packaging like that. And then they just continue eating. Yeah. So after eating, they thought they're gonna win prizes, but no. So the Tzu Chi, Cambodian Tzu Chi volunteers actually told them that this was what you have done. So you unpacked the package, you took the cake out, and then you just threw the packaging away on the floor. Yeah. So she was trying to educate them on proper disposal of the rubbish, even though they live in this situation. However, she was trying to educate them to be more mindful of their actions, and also to take care of the environment as well. Yeah, so at that time I felt very embarrassed and guilty of myself because I questioned her and I didn't really communicate with her beforehand. Yeah, so from here I really learned that we must have trust in our伙伴lah. Yeah, okay. And then the third point is being teamwork. All right, so complementing each other during our mission. Yeah, so this is what 建议师伯, okay, he has given us a very clear direction on the day before. Okay, we had a very short briefing in the night before, and then he actually told us that the real purpose of us going there is mainly to help the Cambodian volunteers to build up their capability in the Taitong, yeah, interaction. Yeah, so this is what we had in our mind before we go for the landfill. Yeah, so on the day itself, when we were assigned with some of the volunteers, and then we started to talk to each other. We know that we have to give some of the chances to them to Taitong instead of us doing everything. Yeah, because we might have the tendency to just take everything and then just do it ourselves without letting others chance to try. Yeah, so at that time, I feel that our team, we have the educational materials, but we don't have the capability to communicate because of the language barrier. And then, however, the Cambodian volunteers, they have the local understanding, and then they have the they know the language over there, and they don't have our educational materials. Yeah, so what we do is that we supply them with the educational materials, and then we will share about the meaning behind it, and then our Cambodian volunteers will just take over, and then they just go and share the educational materials using their own languages. Yeah, so which we find it very interesting that we are working in such a manner, even though we have never met each other before, and it was really a nice experience. Yeah, so thank you very much for letting us joining the trip. I think it was something that is very fruitful, a very fruitful learning journey, and thank you for having us to share today as well. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you all for wonderful sharing, and once again, my appreciation to all of you, not just for the work, but also for the Dharma that you have shared with us. In those instances when you are sharing, you are not just sharing, you are also preaching the Dharma, and in that instance, you are, in my eyes, my teacher, and you are the Buddha in my three jewels. And so that's what we do for each other, not just supporting, not just trusting each other, but also believing in each other's wisdom, that your sharing is the teaching for me, and it's something for all of us to learn. And not only that, but we are connected to the people that you're helping. We're connected to you, the people that have done the help, and we're connected to the very events that you're doing. And that make us connected, not just making us family, but also making us one in the Dharma. And I think that's very important. So thank you all for today, the wonderful sharings, and making all of us today connected in the Dharma ourselves. And hopefully through that, we will be able to transcend to wisdom and be able to not just see the things as they are, but also see the things for the wisdom that's within all of us. So thank you again, and we will see each other next week for more exciting sharings and heartfelt sharings from all of you, and we'll see each other again next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And Brother Joe and our Singapore Dharma families for such wonderful and heartfelt wise sharing. Thank you, Pusa, for your presence today. Hope that each of us could sustain the Dharma joy and take in another piece of Masters and Hualien love to our life. Let us please make 3 vows to the Buddha and Master Cheng Yen as we depart to apply these teachings in our daily lives. Let us pay our respects to our teachers of life, universal truth. Palms together. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Gan En, everyone. See you all next Saturday. And bye.